If you've ever felt like you're constantly running on empty, pushing through exhaustion, and wearing business as a badge of honor, this is for you. I'm your host, Saima, and today I'm joined by Nicole Richards, a former CPA turned mindset and transformation coach. After years of grinding in the corporate world, she realized that true success isn't about doing more, it's about doing what actually serves you. Now, she helps high achieving women break free from burnout, prioritize self care, and step into their purpose with confidence. Now, we are diving into why self care isn't just an indulgence, it's a non negotiable. Now, let's get into it. Nicole, you went from being a CPA to transformation coach. So, what was the breaking point that made you realize something had to change?
That's a great question. So it was a couple of things. One, not having the time to spend with my family. I used to spend a lot of time traveling to client sites, and we would spend almost 80 hours a work week during tax season, which is right now. Um, Kind of just in a conference room with like no windows, just getting out those clients' financials, right? Auditing those client financials. And something about it, just not being able to see the sun, especially with daylight savings and everything like that here in the States, um, it kind of just made life just seem meaningless, right? Like there was no purpose. I was just going through the motions. And, I wanted to spend more time with my son at the time. He was at a young age where he was in activities like basketball and track and, after school activities. And I just felt like I wasn't present the way I needed to be. So, I, look towards a less demanding job. And then even with that, just seeing how that burnout could still exist, right? Like even though I wasn't working those hours, I wasn't feeling like I was serving a purpose. And it was just that point when I said, okay, why am I doing this? Why did I even start this career? And my career started with providing what I needed. Like it was during the 2008, the market had just crashed, the housing bubble, and just understanding that I needed something that was a recession proof job, but understanding that was not a true purpose, right? Like I was just going through the motions. And now I see that once I walk through a path of, oh, take the time and rest and, spend time with those that I love, that's when I started seeing how I can help others do the same.
That's noteworthy. So, can you share the signs you ignored before, finally prioritizing yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't getting sleep. That was probably number one. And then, the diet wasn't the greatest. I was just eating whatever we could DoorDash or get delivered into those conference room and watching that weight gain on me, right? And then I'm realizing I'm more snappy. I'm not as happy in my environment, right? I'm short with my son. I had less patience with my then husband and things like that. So that was kind of when I started noticing it and just realizing that when I was off, I didn't want to do anything. I just laid on the couch. I would just watch TV all day and the days were just literally passing me by. So those were just the little signs that I realized. And once I, started taking that step back from trying to find things that will give me joy, that's when I realized, oh, there was more to life.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a myth that self care is all bubble bath and spa days. So, how do you define self care in a way that's, actually sustainable?
Right. So when I first thought about self-care, I thought it was like, oh, let me book this massage and, that's
Mhm.
going to help me. But, I would sit on that table, I would lay on that table and I'm literally going through all the things I still had to do. Like I don't have time to be here, right? So having that moment where I realized that self-care means prioritizing myself, right? Starting with how do I show up for myself today? Delegating, right? I cannot do everything on my to-do list. I had to understand that was just not possible. I had to stop trying to do everything on my own, asking for help, right? These are versions of self-care. Saying no, putting those boundaries up. Makes a difference because when you're saying yes to everyone else, you're saying no to yourself, right? So those are just different forms of self-care when, sometimes you don't have to show up for everyone's function, right? You feel obligated. You might feel like you need to. You feel like, oh, they've been there for you, but sometimes you need to be there for yourself. Um, so there's different ways that you can task yourself to do self-care, but also self-care can be having a massage. That is okay, right? Having someone just tell you to relax those muscles and take those
Mhm.
deep breaths make a difference, right? Doing 5 minutes of meditation in the morning, maybe writing gratitude of why you're so grateful for why your day has started off. Like I give gratitude every time I wake up in the morning because I get to experience this day, right? I got to sleep through the night and now I got to experience a new day. So those are different things that you can do that are kind of self-care. And that's why I always say it's non-negotiable because you just need to remember that you have to take care of yourself, right? Think about being on a plane. They always tell you to put your oxygen mask on first before you put it on someone else.
That's thought provoking. So, can you share one small but powerful shift that someone can make today to prioritize themselves?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I tell my clients is, again, write out your list, right? Do a life audit. That's, with my framework, it's called change purpose action, CPA, like that's on purpose. And, so one of the things that we do is doing that life audit, writing down everything that occupies your time, right? It might be used on the phone. You might have a lot of activities, write everything down and then see what you can delegate, right? That is key. Again, delegation makes a difference. I noticed a huge change in my life when I started saying, I don't need to do the dishes every night, right? My son can do it. He is old enough, right? Or maybe he can go and clean out the car, right? The kids love having something to do. So, or even your spouse, right? Asking them for assistance and saying, hey, I can't do all of this. I need your help. So different things like that. But one of my favorite things to do is to recommend something as simple as meal planning using something like an AI like ChatGPT and saying, hey, the closest supermarket is Food Lion for me. Can you write a grocery list and recipes for the week for me and my family of three, my family of four, whatever your family size is. And then ChatGPT will write it out for you, right? And that will save you time from thinking about, oh gosh, I have to create, meals for my family this week. I have to do all these things. So that's just one way that you can utilize different things. And that's another way of delegating, right? Like ChatGPT could be your virtual assistant. Some people can't afford a virtual assistant or a personal assistant. That is something that you can use.
That's indeed a powerful one. Now, burnout is a badge of honor in many workplaces, especially for high achievers. How can people reframe their mindset to see rest as productive?
Oh, absolutely. So, one of the things is they always say, I don't have time. And instead of saying, I don't, ask yourself, how can I find the time, right? When we change our brains to go into that critical thinking, it automatically snaps into action, right? But when we say we don't, I don't know how, it's going to shut off, right? So reframing those thoughts definitely makes a difference, right? One of my other methods is the LIFO method. So if anyone in the accounting world is familiar with it, that's last in, first out. So that last negative thought that you have that I can't do it is like, let's think of reframing it, right? How can we? How can I find the time? Oh, again, I can delegate or I can pass it on to someone else. Or maybe I don't even need to be doing this task. Like, why is this on my plate? Right. Or maybe I have been spending too much time on my phone, or maybe I have been spending too much time gossiping at work, right? Sometimes that's even draining. So, seeing the environment that you're in can make those kind of differences in how we're thinking.
That completely makes sense, Nicole. So, can you share some practical ways to set, boundaries without guilt?
Yeah. So, absolutely. So, one thing, like I said, is just when someone, wants you to come to like a birthday party and you don't want to go, right? You're like, oh, you're dreading it from the minute you said yes to it. And it's like, why did you even say yes in the first place? Was it that you felt obligated? Did you feel guilty? Are you a people pleaser, right? Um, how can you get out of it in a sense? And you could just say no. And that's it. It is one sentence. No. It's a
Mhm.
beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, this I needed to hear this. I'm sure many people needed to hear this. I go through this a lot.
Yes.
Now, Many people, many women especially struggle with feeling like they have to earn rest. So, how do you help clients break free from that?
It's taking that time to say, again, looking at that life audit, right? So what is it that, how are you showing up for yourself, right? You're showing up for everyone else around you. How do you want to show up for yourself? What does that look like? How do you envision it? If you were to close your eyes, take a deep breath, go outside in nature and just feel the warmth, or like if you like the cold, go outside and just experience it and say, if money wasn't an option, time wasn't, eh, if money wasn't a problem, time wasn't a problem, what would I be doing with myself? What would be my highest frequency? What would be my highest vibrations in life? What would I experience? What would I enjoy? For me, it was traveling. I enjoyed traveling because I got to see the world. And seeing the world made me realize that my problems weren't as big and they were more solvable than I realized. So when we do that life audit and look back at everything that we've put on our plates and reflect on it, then that's when we can deep dive into it and figure out what our purpose is. And then we start taking those actions, right? Like, how do we want to accomplish to get to that goal of that higher person that we're trying to be?
Mm-hmm. So, was there any mantra or specific mindset shift that helped you personally?
That I am capable, I am worthy, I am brilliant. So anything that
Mhm.
stands in my way, I am capable of overcoming it every time.
That's noteworthy. Now, if someone listening feels exhausted, overwhelmed, and disconnected from themselves, so where do they start?
So it starts again with that life audit. But, when you feel overwhelmed, I've always realized that it's because there's no systems in place, right? We don't have anything set up. So we don't know how to get through our day. We just see this big, daunting task of all the to dos that we have to do. What are our goals, right? How can we make those goals smaller, right? How they always said, you can't, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So let's say you want to save $1,000, this year, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do that. How can we start, right? If we were to break it down, there's 365 days in a year. Maybe we're doing, or 52 weeks, right? We could do $100 a week or anything like that, or $10 a week, however it needs to be set up, right? Like, don't look at it in such a big piece. Start breaking it down smaller and then having it in a way that is very strategic, right? How can we make this timely? And then as we're going through these process, how can we reward ourselves, right? We don't want to wait until we get to the big end goal, but let's say you save that $10 this week. Okay, what can we do about that? All right, let me go outside and take a walk, right? So that walk is my reward, right? Or you decide you're gonna buy a piece of candy, whatever it is, right? Like that is the goal. So always treat yourself and give yourself that compassion for those small wins that you have. And when you see those small wins, you're you feel like you want to keep going, right? You're more motivated to see what else you can do out there.
I completely agree with that. Can you share the first step in reclaiming joy and
The first step in reclaiming your alignment is recognizing that the awareness, right? Like recognizing that there's something that's wrong, and that you're ready for a change, right? It's important that you're ready for it because if you're not, you're going to be fighting it along the way.
I'm sure that's gonna surely help all our listeners out there. Nicole, your journey is a proof that you don't have to run yourself into the ground to be successful. Rest isn't a reward, it's a requirement. So, if you have been waiting for permission to prioritize yourself, consider this. You can connect with Nicole and explore her coaching and retreats. And if this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a review and remember, self care isn't selfish, it's the foundation of everything. Until next time, stay mindful and take care of you.